Hey, welcome back to another episode of Heroes and Videos. This is a special edition of Heroes and Videos. Just got back from Heroes Con in Charlotte, and it was a fantastic show. Picked up way too much stuff. May have to make it a two-part video. I'm going to have some footage here shortly from the convention floor. And it was just, as always, just an incredible show. Just something else. Spoilers coming up if you're not keeping up with the World Cup. And the USA's participation in it. Spoilers right now, so flip away if you don't know where we are. I'm recording this the day of the US and Australia match, and I think my neighbors heard me when I went goal a couple of times when the USA beat Australia here 2-0. So yay, go USA. So I got the red, white, and blue on. So congratulations, USA. Play again next week. I'm going to be tuning into the Paraguay-Turkey game here shortly. But USA is advancing to the next round. That may be all the World Cup you guys are interested in for today. I know you came here for comics. Have some really cool ones. I'm going to show you about half of what I got here, and then we're gonna do a little. We might look at some convention footage, and then wrap up with a second episode with the rest of the haul. This was completed a couple of runs here. It's kind of Avengers heavy, Captain America heavy, a little of this, a little of that, and I'm going to end today, or at least in this episode, on a really cool book from a collection of an artist that I just think does a phenomenal run on the Jade Giant, or the not so jolly Green Giant back in the 70s and even into the 80s, I think. So it was just really fascinating to me. So stick around for that, because it's just really cool to be able to get a book like that into my collection. So please hit like. Please hit notifications, all that great, wonderful YouTube stuff. Subscribe to the channel. And with no further ado, let's get right into it. This is the program for Heroes Con. The program there with the, it looks like Space Marilyn Monroe there on the cover, which is pretty cool. As always, they do a great job of these. It says number 44. This can't be the 44th one, because I think they just had an anniversary. I don't know. It's possible. I did, make the really bad dad joke to the guy at the counter to ask him if the programs were actually 10 cents. They were not. He was nice about it. he chuckled as opposed to laughing. Next up is a book that I have another copy of. It's one of my favorite issues of Warlock. Honestly, it's one of my favorite Marvel comics. It's Warlock number 11, The Strange Death of Adam Warlock. Love this book. It dovetails with Marvel 2-in-1 Annual number 2. Slight spoilers for the book here. It's Warlock. He travels. Warlock, current Warlock, if you will, travels into some unknown point in the future, and comes face to face with himself. And his future self is destitute and just a broken individual. He's like, his life doesn't have meaning. Everybody I've ever known has died. Everybody I've ever loved has passed away. I have nothing left. Just please take me. And so he, present day Warlock kills future Warlock. And then a couple of years later, you get to see the same scene play out from future Warlock's perspective. So I just think it's really, it's a fascinating book. I picked this one up. I mentioned I already had a copy. I'm getting to the point, and let me know in the comments if any of you all like this too. I do enjoy getting books signed. I've gotten a lot of books signed over the years at conventions. This was the one of the few conventions I didn't actually get anything signed at this one. But I've gotten to the point, and I don't know if this is just us being collectors and OCD or obsessive compulsive, whatever it is. I've now gotten to the point that, because I have Jim Starlin, asked Jim to sign one of these for me a while back, a few years ago, I think in Baltimore, and I'm now at the point in my collecting where I'm actually picking up books that I've got signed, but I'm picking them up again so I have unsigned copies. I know that may be a little weird. I'm curious what the rest of you all think about it. It was curious. I remember telling Jim about this one of the first times I met him, that how much I just really loved this story, because it is really fascinating, because you get, and when this book came out, you're completely getting the perspective of current day Warlock, and then years in the future you're getting the perspective of future Warlock, and it's just an amazing sequence. I think what Jim said about it was that he kind of downplayed the significance of it, or the genius of it, I thought, but he downplayed it, saying, hey, he only had to write the scene once. He got to use it twice, but he only had to write it once. I thought that was pretty cool. I can't say enough about Jim Starlin. Fantastic creator. And he's doing some new Dreadstar stuff. So he's got new Dreadstar stuff coming out from time to time. I want to say it's from Monkey Wrench Press. So you should check that out. They're coming out like in hardbacks, I think, and trade paperbacks as opposed to monthlies. But yeah, check out Jim Starlin's new Dreadstar stuff. Next up, I filled in a really cool run of Avengers. This cover is just an awesome cover. I believe it's George Perez's first work on the book. Maybe first Marvel work, but definitely his first book work on the Avengers. I want to say it might even be Vince Colletta doing the inks, though, but it doesn't quite have the polished look of later Perez. But it's when they were jumping back and forth, as a lot of great Avengers stories do, between a group of Avengers in the present, if you will. And I know this is not a time travel episode, but a group of Avengers in the present, and actually on the Squadron Sinister's Earth, and another group of Avengers, Hawkeye and Thor and Moondragon, I think, that are in the past, dealing with Marvel's Western characters and Kang. So it was like two completely different storylines going on at the same time that kind of dovetail and get everybody back together at one point. But what I love about this cover is it was on a notebook that I had for many, many years as a kid. I don't know if you all remember those 3-ring notebooks, but yeah, this was the cover for the Avengers one. So it's just super classic cover. Iron Man, if you can see there, Iron Man's got the nose going on, so we know it's a very specific time in Marvel history. I looked at a number of these to find a really good deal on one in great shape. And the tip for everybody, anytime you see a Marvel 25 center, check for the value stamp. They're not all Marvel 25 centers have value stamps, but if it's got a value stamp in it, it's a Marvel 25 center. So just as a tip, you may want to check that out. Next up is not long after 141. This is Avengers 146. I got, this is a part of a two-parter that was really out of continuity. I believe it was supposed to be a giant size, maybe giant size Avengers 6, and that just didn't happen. And the dreaded Deadline Doom was coming up, and so they Marvel put this out as a two-parter with a little bit of framing sequence. They even have a little blurb at the beginning of the issue prior to this that says, hey, guess where it comes in continuity. So, and I don't think it really matches up anywhere in continuity. Though Iron Man does have the nose here, so it can't be that far off. This is Avengers 146. Again, I looked for a really good copy of this. It's not a great story. No shade on Don Heck, because I know he's an Avengers legend as far as I'm concerned in terms of the early stuff. But wasn't really my thing at the time, though I appreciate him as a storyteller now. Except for design and costumes, that's a bridge too far for me with most of the costumes that Don Heck has created over the years. But it's just a black cover, and it's really beautiful and presents very well. So that was 146. There's a few in a row here. Avengers 157. I've had all of these at some point. I don't know if they ended up going away when I had to shop or not. Oh, Iron Man's nose is gone in this one, but maybe it's a Kirby cover, so Kirby may not have cared either way at this point in his career. So this is Avengers 157. You're supposed to think that's the Gray Gargoyle. It is not. I was a huge fan of the Defenders back in the day, and one of my first Defenders issues was Defenders 11, which is when I learned that the Black Knight had been turned to stone. Which I think happened back in Defenders 4. But that kind of wraps up that storyline somewhat. Right behind that is Avengers 158, another Kirby cover, Wonder Man versus Division. I think Sal Buscema does the art on the inside. I'm going from memory here. This is first Graviton. I picked this up for a pretty good price, and it's just, it's a great book. Next up is the second appearance of Graviton, and this is, I'm thinking the way everybody's shaped there, the way the poses are done, that's a Gil Kane cover, but I don't have anything to base that on other than just the poses. But also, I believe this is also Sal Buscema doing the inside. I want to say Shooter is writing the book at this point. but it was, again, it's just a pretty cool run of Avengers, and getting ready to dig in with some more George Perez. This is Avengers 160, great issue with Trial with the Grim Reaper and Wonder Man and Vision there. This was, I think they were really trying to create one of my favorite Avengers runs, which is 50 through 100. You see I've got 71 back here behind me. 50 through 100 is one of my favorite runs of any comic for Avengers. And maybe it's a 50 through 100 thing, because same thing for Amazing Spider-Man. But this feels like they were trying to recapture that spirit, where in those issues, those Roy Thomas issues, you didn't really see a lot of the big three. You had the Vision, Scarlet Witch, Black Panther, Quicksilver, maybe, who am I missing? Hank Pym and the Wasp. But the big three, Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man, would show up just periodically. They wouldn't show up all the time. And this is that same kind of vibe here. You see those characters: Black Panther, Wanda, Vision, Wonder Man, the Beast, and this is just another really good book, 160. So I just checked CLZ before coming on, and those issues of Avengers I just showed there now give me 113 through 200, I believe. So pretty decent, closed out a pretty decent run of Avengers. I mentioned 50 to 100. I've got a few on either side of that too. So I did have a few more gaps to close out, hopefully 50 to 200 at some point. But that was kind of neat. With just a half a dozen or less books, I closed out almost a 100-issue run. Next up, speaking of Avengers, the Star Spangled Avenger, Captain America. Found this Captain America 118. It's the second appearance of the Falcon. I had the first appearance years ago, but I'm almost sure I sold that when I had the shop. But because I don't seem to have it now. But this is just so beautiful. Look at that. Look at that red. I mean, sorry for the glare. The way that thing shines, it's so bright. It's just such a nice, beautiful cover, and the contrast between the yellow and then the green of Sam's suit with the pale blue Captain America there. And I'm not sure at this point if that is Captain America, because in the storyline, he and the Red Skull had switched bodies or switched minds, or both, because why not? Another Captain America I picked up to help me with a bit of a run is Captain America 160. It is the first appearance of Solar. Solar never did a whole lot for me. That cover is not doing a whole lot for me either. It's an interesting book on the inside. Cap got his super strength a little before this, and that seems to be the gist of the storyline here, is that Falcon's feeling a bit like a fifth wheel because Cap is ripping off door hinges and stuff, and it has that newfound super strength, which I found odd because he had that strength when I was reading the book. I first started reading the book around 170, 171, somewhere in there. So I just assumed Captain America had always had super strength. So it was a little weird when it wore off at some point. Another one in that run, Captain America 163, with the first appearance, I believe, of the Serpent Squad. It's pretty awesome book. I just love that whole Englehart and Sal Buscema run. It was just really, really good stuff. Here's Captain America, and way before Captain America, Ameriwolf, or whatever they called it, Falcon was turning into a werewolf. This is the first appearance of Nightshade. The Nightshades had some different iterations over the years. It's always been the same lady here, and apparently she's super smart, even though, and that doesn't mean that just, doesn't mean she can't wear, the bikini, but it was a bit of an odd contrast there. But and it looks a little Frank Robin-esque, but looking at that Cap face, that's Romita Senior, John Romita Senior. But yeah, she is Queen of the Werewolves, and it's a pretty good issue. And again, it's helping me fill in a bit of a Cap run. I'd like to get Cap 150 through, I think 147 through 200, but I didn't have 147 before the show. Spoilers for what's coming up. Now, I was talking about one of the great artists, I think, of the 70s and 80s, and just really overlooked. And mainly because he was drawing the Incredible Hulk when I started buying it with issue 170. and he was the only Hulk artist I knew through, I guess, around issue 200 or close to 200 for the book. The Incredible Hulk was one of the first runs I tried, or first comics I tried to collect back issues of as a kid in the 70s. So, you know, even though I started at 170, I very quickly tried to find, you know, comic shops, which were few and far between, and try to fill in some stuff before that. So yes, I was lucky enough to start buying those books off the shelf before 180 and 181. So I have those. But Spider-Man, I think I started month to month with issue 130. So, but don't worry, I got issue 129 of that eventually as well. Speaking of issue 129, this is a beautiful Hulk I picked up. And Herb Trimpe was drawing this book back to, I want to say almost even, I don't think he was drawing it back when it was Tales to Astonish, but I know in the early 100s, or once it became the Incredible Hulk, he was doing them pretty much from then on. And this is another great example. This is the first appearance of the Glob. I don't know if it's the last appearance of the Glob. I never really much followed the Glob, but I just loved. I mean, I feel like Herb was so underrated. He did the definitive Hulk for many, many years. I want to say almost a decade, and it's just, I mean, look at that. Look at that perspective. I mean, see the buildings on the ground down here and the tower here. You're way up in the air with the Hulk there. And I know the colors has a lot to do with this too, but I just love the way he drew the Hulk, and I think he's just super underrated as an artist, and so this is one I needed, and it just presents really well. Speaking of Herb Trimpe, I happened to see, I've just mentioned Captain America 147. I happened to notice this. I was at I can't remember the name of the shop, but his name was Ed. Great guy. I've seen him at a number of shows, and some of the books in the collection, or some of the books at that booth, included this little sticker at the top that said Herb Trimpe's personal copy. Now I needed this issue to fill in a hole, but I was like, that's just crazy, Herb Trimpe's personal copy. And then I noticed on the back there's actually, and I know certificates of authenticity don't really mean anything, but it's, you know, it's just from Brett, Brett Carreras, who runs the Virginia Comic Con. That's just fantastic show. Brett with 2 T's, and I didn't get a chance to see Brett. It was just funny though, because I was looking through these books at Ed's booth, and mentioned, you know, this was really cool. And he said, you know, this is crazy, but you're the first person. This was on Saturday at the show. He said, you're the first person that's noticed that said anything about that. And the guy, you know, he's like, the guy that got the collection is right over there at the other booth there with Larry Hama, that, you know, the guy that runs the Virginia Comic Con. And I recognized him, and it's like, oh, you mean Brett? So I don't know Brett very well. I've only met him a few times at his shows, but seems like a genuinely nice dude. And it was just a really weird coincidence. It's like, oh, actually the guy that runs the Virginia show is the one. There's Brett right there. Of course, this is Herb Trimpe, and then that's Brett, and this is Linda Fight, who worked on Claws of the Cat and Night Nurse, and apparently that's who Brett acquired the collection from. And it's I just think it's kind of cool. Certificate of authenticity, I know, like most of those things really doesn't mean anything, but I know Brett's a good dude, and I you know, I have no reason to not think this is Herb Trimpe's personal copy. So I just thought that was really cool. The only thing that would have made it cooler was, I was looking, I have a long run of Incredible Hulks from the early 1-teens until well past 200. I've got a lot of those Herb Trimpe issues, and I would have bought a duplicate just to have had a Herb Trimpe personal copy of a Hulk that he drew. There were a couple of Hulk issues there that were that were from Herb's personal collection, but they weren't the issues that he drew. They were later stuff, like up into the 200s or 300s. So I just thought that was really cool. By the way, sorry for all the Herb talk, but it is a great issue of Captain America. You could probably have a good idea who the Supreme Hydra is there. His name, if I recall who it is from the storyline, I think his name rhymes with Ed Null. So you can probably guess that. So hey, with that, we're going to look at some footage. But you know what? We might have run out of time. I think we're going to do footage in the next video. As be on the lookout for that, because I've got another whole big stack of comics to talk about, including some fantastic, well, let's say amazing books that I've been looking for to fill in some gaps in for a long time. With that, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sticking around until the end. As always, keep reading comics, keep going to see movies in theaters, and be kind to each other.